Hello everyone, I've got this mystery handheld to unbox, and if you could read the title, I'm sure you already know what it's going to be. This is a GB Boy Color, and it's taken a long time to get to this. This is something that you guys have been asking for a very long time, and let me explain why it's taken so long to get around to this. And it really has to do with how I decide how to make content on this channel, because I know you guys have been requesting it for a long time, and as you guys saw from the last video, I tried to get you guys content that I know you want to see, and I even let you vote on the last hardware review. But when I actually decide what to review, it's not that easy. I really have to make like a judgment call and see what is going to be interesting to me and what's going to be interesting to you. That's really the only criteria I have for reviewing stuff. It just has to be interesting to both of us, because I can't fake interest, and I want to make stuff that you guys want to see. So that's really the way that, you know what, am I going to have to... Nah, screw it. Yeah, let's just cut through it. But, yeah, so... This is the dullest knife in the world. I'm sorry. It's been passed on through generations. Nah, I'm kidding. But, yeah, so it's actually not as easy as just finding weird little Chinese handhelds and then reviewing them, because I have to try to make sure that it's something that you guys want to watch, because I don't want to just put stuff out there that you guys don't want to see. And, but I need it to be interesting. I need to be able to talk about it and have some interest in it. And to be honest, I never wanted to look at the GB Boy Color because it's just not an interesting device. I know that a lot of people were recommending it after you saw the regular GB Boy, which was the first hardware review that I did. And I guess you guys kind of saw it as like a natural progression that, hey, you know, you already looked at that crappy one with just the regular screen. How about this one that's like better because it has a backlit screen and it plays Game Boy Color games and all this other stuff. But that's not interesting though, because the first one, that is incredibly interesting, because it's like, who would make that sort of thing? It was this little Game Boy clone which had the old green screen, you know, the little LCD screen that did not have a backlight. It didn't have any games built in like the GB Boy Color does apparently. And so it was not made for any modern sensibilities, and in fact, it kind of helps out its conversation piece. It helps it become a conversation piece, because it's like the GB Boy Color, which was sold at the same time, that's such a much more modern, friendlier device for people nowadays, so why would you even make the regular GB Boy? There's no point to it. So you see, that was why it was so interesting, because it was so bad. But it was bad in the right way. It was bad because it was interesting. And that's why I chose to go ahead and review it. It was a perfect device for this channel. And but I didn't want to do the GB Boy Color, because even though it looked like a natural step forward, it really isn't a natural step forward for the channel, because the natural step forward is to find other stuff which is interesting and that you guys would want to see. Whereas that, sure, some of you wanted to see it, but I just didn't find it very interesting. It didn't really have anything good to top the first GB Boy. But this one, on the other hand, it has a little something that I think you guys are going to like. Something that's very interesting that I want to talk about. So, let's finish unboxing this now. Alright, I guess we gotta cut this too. Come on. This is the point where I ask an adult for help. No, I'm kidding. Let's see. Come on. There we go. Alrighty. Check this out. Ta-da! It's a GB Boy Color, and they stuffed it into a Game Boy SP case. Oh, this is so great. You see, this is what's interesting. This elevates the GB Boy Color from just being a Game Boy Color knockoff into actually being a very interesting device. Because now I just have so many questions I want to answer, as far as, you know, does this even take Game Boy Advance cartridges? Will it even fit them? I have a lot of questions about this, and I think that the Game Boy SP is one of the best designed handhelds ever made, ever. It's maybe not the best one to hold, but it's one of the greatest designs I've ever seen. And so, yeah, I really wanted to get this once I saw that they make the GB Boy in this form factor. And so yeah, let's go ahead and open it. I've been dying. This is I know that this is going to be a good episode that I'll be able to, make it exciting when I am actually giddy. I actually want to unbox this. When it comes in the mail, I don't want to waste any time. I'm like, come on, let's go ahead and make this video already. So I've really been wanting to look at this. Let's see. Here it is. Itself. I got the silver one, which is really nice because I did specify to the AliExpress guy that I wanted silver. He said that I could have the option between silver and blue, and I decided silver because it looks really gaudy and nasty with those silver buttons on the blue unit. So I was like, well, it won't look that bad with silver buttons on a silver unit. And let's see what's in here. We've got instructions, it looks like. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it only came with the power adapter and the unit itself. But here's the instructions. GB Boy. Zhangcheng Kongfeng Industrial Company Limited. And we know that GF stands for Gangfeng, according to the GB Boy, the original one that we did. So it's Gangfeng Zhangcheng Kongfeng Industrial Company Limited. Try to say that 5 times fast. Gangfeng Zhangcheng Kongfeng Industrial. Gangfeng Zhangcheng. I'm already screwing up. Never mind. Bad idea. This is just like Xeroxed. This is on regular paper. Alright. And it's all in Chinese. Yeah. Okay, thanks guys. Wonderful. Except GB Boy, of course. And you know what? That's just like the last one. Everything was in Chinese except for GB Boy, which they feel the need to always put in English. Alright, so that's completely useless. Let's take a look at the unit. There we go. Oh, put this away. Always be safe, kids. Now let's see. Oh, this is so cool. It's a lot shinier than a normal Game Boy SP. But, cool. GB Boy color. That kind of had me scared because this one right here on the box, it just says GB Boy. And, oh, well, you know what? Up there it says GB Boy color. So, okay, that alleviates my concerns. Because for a while I was like, oh my god, I just got a regular GB Boy. But, you know what? That actually doesn't feel that bad. The controls actually feel okay. Let's see. I don't know if this will turn on. Let's see. Ah, cool. It did turn on. Let's see if it has any games built in. I guess not. Reset. No. Start and select don't do anything. Neither do those. There's a brightness on it. Oh, wow. Oh, wait. It just turns it on and off. Okay, so that brightness dimmer switch, that is actually just a on-off thing for the screen. Well, no, you know what? There actually does seem to be some control. I guess it's just right here at the very top. It's just on and off. Alright, then there's volume right here on the side. Let's go ahead and turn this off, that way I could just look at it. Anyways, there's a little power button as you saw. And look, there's like a little ghost image of GB Boy on there. And I guess it just kind of stays on there for a while. Okay. So then there's on and off. There's the link cable attachment. I'm guessing that's for the power adapter. It must be, yeah, because it's that little skinny type of power thing. So yeah, it just goes in there. Then this is like a little loop for, one of those little hand straps or something. And here is a microphone jack, which is really cool. I mean, like you guys probably know, the original Game Boy SP did not have a microphone jack, so that's really nice. And like I said, volume and brightness right here. That's nice that they put a little brightness thing right there, because usually it was a little button right here on the Game Boy SP. And let's see. Yeah, it looks like it's actually not bad build quality. I like this. And you know what? Let me get some games to see if they fit in here. Just a minute. Alrighty, got 3 games right here. Let's see. I wonder if Game Boy Advance games even fit in here. Let's see. No, it seems like they don't. No. Okay, they don't. There we go. There's a Game Boy Color game. Let's see. GB Boy. Oh, okay, so it does work. This is Cannon Fodder for Game Boy Color. That actually works really well. This is one of the more demanding games for Game Boy Color, but let's see. What game? Okay, well, at least it turns on and everything. I'm not going to get into an actual game. Let's see if it puts the Game Boy games in like color mode, like if it brings the actual colors with it. Say GB Boy. And that sucks, it doesn't have the games built into it. And what happened? I'm hoping that this is just a bad cartridge. Let's see. This is Kirby's Dream Land 2. There we go. Wait, what? The colors are all screwed up. Or, no, they're just oversaturated or something. I don't know, they don't look right. I don't know, maybe it's just me because I'm used to playing this on the Super Game Boy. But yeah, the colors do look off. They look very off. What happened? You know what? I think it just ran out of battery. It just needs to be charged up. Okay. Well, that's fair. And this is going to be really strange, always having a Game Boy SP that has a Game Boy cartridge just sticking out like that. What else does it say right here? Just Chinese stuff, manufacturing number, that sort of thing. So it does have a rechargeable battery pack. That's at least a nice thing. But damn it, I wish that it had those games that were built in. So I guess this wasn't as smart as a buy as I thought it was. Because I know that people were telling me that the GB Boy Color, the other one that looks like a Game Boy Color, that one does have games built in. But I don't know. So it seems that this one they did not get that part right. And you know what? Time for some unboxing porn. Let's take this off. Oh, that feels good, doesn't it? All right. Yeah. So Kong Fing. That's what it says instead of Nintendo. Gang Fing, Kong Fing. This there's some connection there. I don't know what the hell it is. But okay, this is gonna be weird with games always sticking out. But we'll have to deal with it. And anyways, let me go ahead and test this out a little bit more, and I will get back to you guys. Alright guys, I've been playing around with my GB Boy Color right here, and it's actually not a bad device, it's pretty good. Before I go on though, I think I forgot to mention in the unboxing that it doesn't have shoulder buttons, but I'm sure you guys already noticed that. And let me just get a real Game Boy SP right here. And so yeah, there's no shoulder buttons, but that was pretty obvious right there, and so because of that, of course, it can't play Game Boy Advance games. And, I wonder why my Game Boy Advance SP doesn't have any identifying information, but maybe you guys will find that out later. But the crazy thing is that when I was playing this, I always had my fingers right here as if there were shoulder buttons, and I don't know, I guess just out of habit. But the unit itself is actually pretty good. It works just like just as advertised, and the buttons themselves, the build quality is alright. Every now and then a button would get stuck or didn't feel as responsive as it should be, but it was really few and far between. I couldn't even get it on camera, so I mean it's not really a huge problem. And also the buttons, they seem to be like kind of painted, and it seems like it's cheap paint, so I'm wondering if that's ever going to flake off. And otherwise, though, it seems like it's okay. The only really bad build quality moment I could see is right here where you see the volume part is, you know, it fits, it's alright. And this part seems like it's getting squashed or something. I don't know, it just looks like a bad fitment issue. And otherwise, the build quality is pretty good. I mean, I didn't really put it through its paces. I didn't take it outside or anything. But overall, it works just as intended. The battery is also really good, but it takes a very long time to charge. As you guys saw when I unboxed it, it came in with basically almost no battery left. And so I put it on charger, and it took like 4 or 5 hours, which I thought was a really long time to charge up this thing. And for a while I even thought it was like frying the battery, but the charger with that little light that it has, it switched from red to green, and so thankfully it did complete its charge. And I don't know how long the battery lasts, but I've been playing with it for quite a few hours and it has not gotten flat or anything. So I think that the battery is pretty good on this thing. And like I said, this didn't give me any problems. In fact, it was actually really good at reading games, and usually if it didn't read a game, it was because it was a pretty beaten up and worn out game that I had. Like for instance, this version of Super Mario Land, I've had it since I was a kid, and so it is very worn out, and it's usually a big pain to get it to run on any Game Boy that I have. But with this, it ran pretty well. I mean, pretty much on the first time it booted up, whereas usually I have to clean the contacts over and over again. But let me just show you right here. And this shows also one of the biggest problems with this device, and that is, if you guys haven't noticed it already, the screen is longer than it is tall. And that's a problem because the original Game Boy Color, let me get one right here. Where did I leave it? Ah, here we go. Alright, the original Game Boy Color, of course the screen, it's taller than it is wide. That's just how they sort of made these things kind of in portrait mode instead of landscape mode, if you could think of it that way. And so it is a problem right there because since the pixels, fill up the whole screen, then that means that they have to stretch everything out just a little bit. But call me crazy, but I think that in some games it actually helps, including Super Mario Land. I'm not kidding you, let me get into it right here, but let's see. And the sound is actually really good on this thing as well. I was really surprised by that. But as you can see with this, I'm hoping that you guys can see close enough. There you go. Okay, Mario, he's a little bit pudgier. He's, the Mario that we know and love from all the other games. So I really like that it stretched it out, but it seems more natural. The only bad thing is that it kind of has a weird clipping issue because since the pixels are stretched out, as you can see with this, you see he kind of clips into that block without touching it. You see he's not touching the block, but he's like almost clipping into a quarter of it right there. Another cool thing is that the coins actually look like coins. You see, they're round. And I like that. They're actually a lot rounder. I mean, I know that in the original Super Mario Brothers for NES, and even on the old Mario games, the original Mario Brothers games where, they're fighting off turtles and everything in the sewers, I know that those ones had coins that were not round. They were more oblique, oblong. But I still like that, though. I like it that these coins actually look like coins. And also the blocks, they're a little bit longer, too. They're not perfectly square. But I actually do like this. I mean, call me crazy. Maybe you guys will disagree with me. But I like it that I like the perspective with it stretched out just a little bit. And otherwise, I mean, it's a pretty good game. But again, you see there's a little bit of clipping, so it's kind of hard to hit blocks or enemies when you really want to. But otherwise, it works pretty well. And one of the things also is that I didn't point out the color right there on Game Boy Color. And by the way, it always keeps the image right there when you turn it off. It kind of like, has some burn-in right there, I guess you could call it. But anyways, the color in GB Boy Color, it's that British type of spelling with the U in it. So I always thought that was kind of funny. But then again, Hong Kong, I mean, wasn't that British controlled for a while, so I guess that's kind of like the English style that they use. But otherwise, this is a pretty good device. It actually surprised me. I thought it was going to be junk. And however, the form factor of it, that's the whole point of it. Because there is another GB Boy Color, which you guys always wanted me to review, and it looks like this. It looks just like the original one, but of course it has that little wonky D-pad and other little changes that they made along with the GB Boy. And but with this one, it pretty much is the exact same thing, but just, crammed into a Game Boy SP form factor. And so you see, it pretty much is the same thing. In fact, if we put them side by side, it's just a little bit shorter. But they really did just cram in this thing into this. And otherwise, it behaves just like one. I didn't have any incompatibilities, or I didn't run across anything like that, so it does work just like an original one. And it also doesn't seem to have that audio speed-up issue that we had in the GB Boy. So at least I didn't detect it. I played some of the games, and it seems like it runs perfectly fine. And but one of the problems is actually the form factor, because I'm sure the big elephant in the room right here is that you're always going to be playing this with this tongue sticking out. With this thing, it looks like it's sticking its tongue out at you. And so that's horrible for its form factor. I guess if you were just traveling with it and you didn't want to keep a game cartridge in there, you could just keep it like this, so then it's like a regular Game Boy SP. But it almost feels like you're getting the worst of both worlds. Because with this one, at least, well, let's pretend that this is the GB Boy Color. With this one, you get all the benefits of this, but in a form factor that makes sense. And, in addition, you also get, the backlight on the GB Boy Color. So with this one, it seems like I'm getting nothing for something. It seems like I'm getting gypped right here because it doesn't have the benefits of being in the Game Boy SP form factor, but it has none of the advantages of the GB Boy Color, the original one that you guys wanted me to see. So it is a more interesting device. And again, this kind of illustrates how I decide how to make content here, because I just need it to be interesting. And this is very interesting to me that they decided to make a Game Boy SP which doesn't read Game Boy Advance cartridges, and it's basically a Game Boy Color just stuffed into this. And but even though it's interesting, I would not recommend buying it unless you really just want this for the form factor and the curiosity factor of it. Because why not just get a Game Boy SP? It's kind of like if somebody came up to me and they said, "Hey, I could sell you this Game Boy SP, but it has a little quirk. It doesn't read Game Boy Advance games. It only reads regular Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. And by the way, I'm going to sell it to you for $30." I would tell them get lost. That's a horrible deal. You wouldn't buy that. But that's pretty much what this is. That's pretty much what they made. So it just seems so counterintuitive. And as a matter of fact, there is actually a Game Boy Advance cartridge, which the seller claims that he sells, which will only have Game Boy and Game Boy Color games on it. So in other words, that way you don't have this tongue sticking out and you have this little multi-cart which has I don't know how many games in one. But then when I went onto his listing, I clicked on that hyperlink to find out where the card is that I could buy for it. It says it doesn't exist anymore. So I'm kind of screwed on that part, unless you guys can find something like that for me. But yeah, it's a really puzzling device, because it seems like they threw out a lot of advantages that they could have easily had. If this thing was able to take Game Boy Advance games, in other words, if this was a Game Boy SP, not only in its design, but in what it can do as well, then I think that would be a pretty cool device to own. But then again, if it was that, I wouldn't even be interested in reviewing it, because it's just a Game Boy Advance clone. But again, the interesting part of this story is that it is a Game Boy Color stuffed into a Game Boy SP. So, at least for me, that's very, very interesting. And they did make a few improvements. I mean, like, it has an audio jack, which the original Game Boy SP did not have. So that's really nice that they did that. But it just seems like they had so many missed opportunities with this. But again, had they gone with those opportunities, it would just not be a very interesting device. It would just be, Chinese Game Boy SP versus Nintendo official Game Boy SP. So it just wouldn't be a very interesting review. But otherwise, if you're looking for a Game Boy Color, I would recommend going with the GB Boy Color that is in this form factor, because you have all the advantages of this without the Game Boy SP form factor. And so you have those advantages with the backlight, with everything. I mean, it's a little bit cheaper maybe than, actually, I don't even think that it is cheaper than a Game Boy Color like this that you could find out in the wild. You could probably get a good example for like $20, I'm thinking. I haven't checked prices lately. But not only that, but I think also in the one that is in this form factor, at least from what's been told to me, it has games already loaded in there. So it almost has like a multi-card in there. When you don't have a cartridge in here, it will go ahead and automatically have like a list of 30 games or something. Whereas this one, I was really disappointed that it didn't have that. And I think they probably took it out, because why would they have a reset button right there if it didn't have a multi-card in there? Because usually they use the reset button as a menu button. That way you reset it and then you go back to the games list. So I think that they axed that from this version, and so that is actually one of the biggest problems that I have with it, because you can actually go on a trip without this altogether, without a game cartridge, and then it's a nice little Game Boy Color right here for your pocket. But yeah, without the games in here, I really can't justify the price, and that was really surprising, and so that's why I say that it's probably not a good device to get, unless you just want it as a curio for your collection. Alright, now I'm sure some of you are wondering why this doesn't have any identifying information on it. That's because it goes to this, a Game Boy SP AGS 101 kiosk. And so this is really cool. I always like this. I got this really, really cheap back in the day. I think I got it for it was on eBay. I think I got it for like $20 shipped, because I forgot there was some error. The guy didn't list it properly or something like that, so nobody knew about it. Nobody saw it. But I was able to get it really cheaply. And so yeah, now with a brighter backlit screen in pearl blue or graphite, which this one is. So that's why it doesn't have any identifying information on it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It has Mario Tennis right here on this little cardboard insert. And this is also really interesting because it has one of the few instances of English on a Nintendo cartridge. Well, on anything Nintendo. Usually they're really good with English. But you see this? Property on Nintendo. And yeah, so not for resale, demo GPK only. So yeah, this is just really cool. And by the way, also, you see, not for resale, Mario Tennis Pro Tour, Power Tour, sorry. But yeah, so that's why it doesn't have any identifying information, because it was a demo unit. And I don't think that there's any difference to, like, on the inside. I think it's just, they just didn't have this for sale, you know, it just wasn't meant to be sold to the public. But either way, so yeah, this is really cool. I like this. And yeah, that's it. Humble brag. See you guys later. Bye.